Hello and welcome to the second channel for Tales from the Trip. I'm your host, Trip Keeper, and on today's video, we're going to be looking at the Ask Reddit sub on Reddit, and the topic of discussion for today is, what is a drug/substance you'll never do again and why? Now, I like doing these. I like reading these Reddit threads. I like going into these Ask Reddit things and seeing what people's responses are, because even though they're short, they can pack a punch. You know, a lot of the videos I made, especially the most recent one I did, that's doing pretty well for the channel, that one was very interesting to do. So, you know, we got this one here. It has 7.4 thousand upvotes and it has 5.6 thousand comments. Clearly, we're not going to read every single comment because that would take... How long would that even take to read 5.6 thousand comments? That would take a very, very long time. We'd probably be here for the whole week, maybe. I don't know. I really don't know how long that would take. Maybe someone could do the math on that. No one do the math on that. But, you know, since this video has a chance to reach other viewers, I am not going to just ramble on in the beginning, but I will do some rambling in the middle. But yeah. So let's get started here because we want these people to grab their attention, get it started. So the top one says, cocaine. Every bad decision I've ever made has come from doing too much blow. You feel invincible until the next morning when you have the worst hangover of your life and anxiety that you are a complete ass. Never want that feeling again, so we'll never do it again. All right, first off, the top one is cocaine. Yeah, a lot of bad decisions come from cocaine. Also, I'm drinking a drink called Vibe by Vendange. It's the boxed wine type of thing. This is equivalent to three glasses of wine. And I remember I used to drink these box wines a lot, and I'll never do it again. No, I'm kidding, because I'm doing it right now. But I was just saying that for the Ask Reddit thread. So yeah, it has a 12% alcohol by volume in it. So yeah, we're not drinking a Miller High Life for this video, shockingly, but I did have two before this video. I was working on the video. It just came out on my main channel. Go check it out. The Absolute Horror of 4-MMC, a very good story. Guy overdoses and gets his whole body basically shuts down. Well, it doesn't shut down, but it becomes, all of his limbs become purple and red and shit like that. He goes to the hospital. It's a very good story, very interesting, very disturbing in some aspects. So yeah, I love reading stories where they go to the hospital because of a bad reaction to it. But, you know, you just can't go overboard with these fucking chemicals. You cannot go overboard with it, or else they're going to attack you. They're going to attack you back because you're like, why are you abusing me? You're abusing the drug, and it's going to abuse you back. Like, that's literally what drug abuse is. Drug abuse will fucking kill you if you're not careful. But let's go to the next one. Synthetic weed. I saw my best friend turn into the devil once and never did it again. He turned into the devil? That's crazy. How would you even, like, react to that? Like, seeing your friend turning into the devil. Like, what would the devil look like, you know? And then someone replied, Ozzy, what are you doing? He was making... Ozzy! Yeah? I heard him fart today. He farted while he was on the shitter. It was funny. I never heard him fart before. He might have ever since I've gotten him. I mean, you kind of have to fart, but I never heard him do it. So that was kind of funny. It was like, it was like that a little bit. All right, so let's read what they said under that. Another person, man, fuck since was hanging out at a mate's and he asked if I wanted some weed. I take a hit and tasted it was since, and since they weren't my thing, I declined any more. A few minutes later, the muscles in my neck and back tensed up almost to the point of a cramp, and I felt like I had a nasty alcohol hangover. I was in this state for 2 hours. Had another friend who bought heaps for cheap, as there was a new law coming in that would make them illegal to sell, and the distributors were cleaning out their stock. Started messing with his head, real bad paranoia, thinking certain friends of his were plotting against him. This wasn't just while he was in on it. It was while he was on it. It was when he was sober too. Thankfully, after throwing the rest out and staying off, he then came right. So that's good. That's good. I tried it once and turned catatonic. Friends loaded me onto a bed while I was fully conscious, yet unable to move. They sat with me for an hour till I snapped out of it. Horrifying when you can hear people around talking about whether to call an ambulance, and you want to tell them you'll be alright, but you're fully locked in. Yeah, that's terrifying. That's like you're in a coma a little bit. Alright, Ozzy's on the table. Okay, you wanna read the next one? Yeah? You wanna read it? Come on. Read it. Yeah, that was very good. If you guys didn't catch that, he said, similar experience here. Smoked it not knowing that's what it was and had vivid, terrifying hallucinations, including that my mouth had turned into a Lego brick and a giant hand had come out of the sky to steal my Lego mouth. Hence why I couldn't speak for over an hour. I kept trying to gesture and move my eyes in various directions to communicate with my then boyfriend, but nothing worked. I was fully conscious but frozen. He carried me into his mom's house and put me in the shower with a stack of tortillas between my teeth to keep me from biting through my tongue. Absolute nightmare experience and far, far worse than any other drug I have done since. A lot of crazy synthetic weed stories here, man. This is outrageous. In a good way for content, you know. But yeah, no, it's. I'm glad these people are okay, that they came to, and yeah, they're able to type these responses. That's a good sign. That's a good sign. I tried it once and thought I was going to have a seizure. Felt like my brain got microwaved or something. Just smoke the normal stuff and leave the chemicals out of it. That's true. Just smoke the normal stuff. This girl I worked with years ago at Best Buy did some, ended up in a coma, and basically reverted to like 12 years old mentally and had speech and coordination issues. Didn't qualify for disability or have family to help her, so she was working a full-time job without the mental faculties to really understand what was happening most of the time. It was incredibly sad and scary to hear about. Well, how is she doing now? Oh, that's the next question. Because, you know, on Reddit, how it says, you know, whatever, how many more replies. It said 12 more replies, so I clicked on it. So that was the exact question. How is she doing now? I haven't seen her since like 2017, but even then, 4 years after I worked with her, she hadn't recovered at all. Someone said, damn, that is tragic. Yeah, she is. I mean, that is tragic. That's really tragic, actually. So hopefully, you know, she didn't get drugged by somebody. Like, hopefully it wasn't that, like, you know, someone said it was weed and it ended up being synthetic weed, because that would be like, just imagine, you know, you're living your normal life, you're looking to smoke weed, someone says, hey, I got some weed here, and it's actually synthetic, it's spice, and they don't tell you, or they don't know, maybe they do know and they're just not saying it, and then you smoke it, and then you end up in a coma, and then you revert back to your little kid self forever, like in your mind, like you are literally not mentally capable of holding a, you know, well, she's working, but like probably not a good job at it, but your life has changed forever, all over a stupid mistake that should have been avoided. Like, you know, that's a big fear of mine. That's a really big fear of mine, having things happen out of nowhere that affect your life forever. Like, so in over the summer this year, I saw a story of, I actually saw the picture and video of it too, in Galveston in Texas, on the beach in the ocean. Some woman got her calf ripped off by a shark, and her calf is going to be fucked up for the rest of her life. I mean, it's just, it was a whole chunk of it was gone. So yeah, just thinking about that, just thinking about, oh, I'm going to go to Galveston, have a fun time on vacation, blah, 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 you know, and then you end up getting your leg basically ripped off from a shark. That's terrifying for me to think about. That is really terrifying, because you're not really thinking, because you're close to the shore. You know, sharks shouldn't be that close to shore, and if they are, usually they won't attack humans. So when they do, it's like a shocking thing, but it does happen a lot. You know, I respect sharks. We fuck with them a lot. We get shark fin soup, chop off the top of their the dorsal fin or whatever, is that what it's called? Chop off their dorsal fin and then just throw them back in the ocean, and they die. They sink to the bottom of the ocean and die. So it's really, you know, I guess they're evening it out with us. But just, if you're gonna bite somebody's legs, bite the shark fin fisherman legs off, because that would be you'd be helping everybody, because apparently shark fin soup doesn't add any flavor. It's just the fact that you're eating shark fin soup, like, oh my god, yes, you're eating a shark fin, like, wow, you're so fancy, go fuck yourself. Okay, let's see what's next. Meth. I just didn't like being high for that long and not being able to sleep, then feeling like ass for 2 days. Yeah, no, apparently with meth, you know, you cannot sleep at all. Like, that doesn't sound fun for me. Staying up, not a lot of fun. I accidentally smoked meth once. A friend of mine had a vape. I hit it, and it tasted really weird. I asked why, and he was like, oh, that's meth. It turned out to be a dry herb vaporizer like you use with weed, and it had meth in it. I didn't even know he did meth. It was still early in his addiction, and that's how I found out about it. Let me take a sip really quickly. One hit is all it took. It was fucking awful. It felt good for like it felt good for the first like maybe 4 hours. I was more social and generally feeling really good. Then for the rest of that 44 hours, I couldn't sleep, I couldn't eat, I threw up a bunch of times. I subconsciously clenched my jaw until it ached and then clenched it some more. The anxiety and stress was overwhelming. I felt like I had to move, but at the same time moving was so much effort. I was so fucking exhausted by the end of it that I just lay there with my eyes closed despite not sleeping for hours at a time. The hours truly crawled by. It was easily the longest 2 days of my life. Meth is fucking awful. Truly a horrible experience that I never wish to repeat. I have no idea how people like that shit, and I've never even got the horrifying hallucinations and delusions that some people seem to get after being awake too long. I guess he got lucky there, right? The problem wasn't that you did meth. The problem was that you stopped doing meth. The first 4 hours multiplied by 100 is what people are chasing, and the last 44 hours are what people are trying to avoid. Wow, this statement really summed up addiction. It is understandable. Thanks for explaining. I didn't even know you could vape meth. What the fuck? Dude should have told you before you even got close to it. Yeah, if someone did that to me, I'd be fucking pissed, dude. Imagine staying up. I mean, I've stayed up for 44 hours before. Fairly recently, too. But, it's kind of... Just to have it from one hit of a vape and you're being up that long, that's kind of crazy. That's really crazy that's happening. Like, you're not even smoking meth, like, the whole night or anything. You're just doing it. You're just taking one hit. That's wild. Heroin, because I fucking beat that motherfucker. I can feel the pride behind this. I'm proud of you. Keep being a badass. Fuck heroin. Same, that and all the dead people. So much death. So many human lives wasted. People would just disappear and you'd assume they were dead, and usually you'd be right. I went to more funerals in a few years than my grandparents ever had, and that was just family. Didn't bother going to the funerals of people I knew from the game. Usually half the people there would be high themselves. There's something wrong with this culture that so many people knowingly risk their lives just to check out for a few hours. It's not even the pleasure of being high that keeps people doing it. It's the lack of pain from anything else. It's shocking hearing these stories now because it's mostly just fentanyl. You know, fentanyl, trank is in it, metamfetamine, all that crap, man. It's all in the drug supply. There's barely any heroin in Philly, barely any heroin. Trace amounts the past couple years. That's literally, it's scary. So I'm sure some areas still have it strong, but, you know, something like Philly, the worst, it seems like it's the drug capital of the world, or at least in America, for people doing fentanyl and trank. Like, it's the fentanyl and trank capital of the world for sure. And it's definitely the metamfetamine, because that's the new drug that has hit the market. New animal tranquilizer that's much more potent than trank or xylazine. Yeah, it's fucked up. I made a couple videos on it. I've talked about it countless times, so I won't go into more detail with it. But it is, just look up Kensington, Philadelphia, and you'll see what the hell's going on there. Someone else said meth, did it one time at a party, and I completely understand how people get hooked. Everyone sees the end result, but doesn't realize people start doing it because it makes you feel amazing. Never again. I've always wondered how it makes you feel. Actually, you know, like I've always been intrigued, but I know never to do it. I would never look for it. I would never want to ask for it. Like, it just sounds like nothing but trouble, and the ingredients sound horrible too. I had the same experience. I kept thinking about how valuable the feeling was, how much I could accomplish with this. I missed a sleep cycle, then spent the next 3 days thinking about nothing but how great it made me feel. That shit changed my perception of addiction real fast. Never touched it again. I once heard someone say, if you ever take a drug or drink and wonder, where have you been all my life? Run away as fast as possible. That's how I felt with Kratom. You know, when I got addicted to it, it felt amazing. And then it became just truly an addiction where I wanted to stop, but I just couldn't. But finally, it's almost 10 weeks off clean from Kratom. So that's crazy. I stopped taking it July 1st, 2024. So 10 weeks coming up in 2 days, dude. That's insane. I remember when it was just 2 days. Now it's 10 fucking weeks. That's crazy. Someone had this about tramadol. Had this when I got my hands on a pack of tramadol. Had a few sweet evenings. When I woke up from the last session and the pack was empty, I thought, damn, what a shame. Where do I get more of those? It scared me. Haven't touched opiates or opioids since. That's scary to feel that from tramadol, because a lot of people have negative experiences with it. But you know, it's definitely can be abused. You know. Let's see here. What does that one say? This. I was offered meth once and was like, I'll try it once, why not? Ended up doing a 24-hour bender on the stuff. For a whole week after, I was craving it so bad and planning in my head how I was going to integrate into my life while not going overboard with it. I eventually came to my senses, haven't touched it since. Congratulations on not selling your soul. I mean that. Best choice you ever made. Really is. Really is. Take another sip. Let's see, they talk about opioids. Okay, yeah, we can read this one. I basically just want to read all the top comments, because when it gets down to like the, you know, upvoted twice or not even at all, then we can just stop it. But, you know, it goes on for a little bit here. For opioids, at least, they don't really feel amazing after a while. The first time I used opioids was the first... Why am I saying it like that? Opioids. The first time I used opioids was the best I've ever felt before or since. After about a year on heroin, I didn't feel shit when I smoked it. I started shooting it and got high again for another 3 months or so. After that, I didn't even really feel it anymore. It just kept me from being sick. Then fentanyl really started to become a thing, and that got me high for a few more months. The thing that keeps people addicted even after it doesn't feel good anymore is the withdrawal and post-acute withdrawals. You have to experience the worst week of your life easily, then after that go through a shitty 6 months to 2 years while your body recalibrates. Very little sleep or pleasure from anything, generally feeling too hot or too cold all the time. Extreme depression is common, anxiety, losing your primary coping mechanism, etc. Some people just put a bullet in their head because they can't deal with continuing to use, but they can't get sober no matter how hard they try. It's way easier to just keep using than commit yourself to going through all that shit. It also breaks you down. It's a war of attrition. You may get through 6 months of post-acute withdrawals and just break. You'll be like, I don't care about being sober anymore. I just want to not feel like shit for once. That's why methadone and Suboxone are such valuable tools for quitting opiates. You can get on them and learn coping mechanisms and really prepare yourself to taper down and quit while not engaging in harmful addictive behavior. Some people stay on it for life, and that's okay too, because you can lead a normal life on maintenance. That's true. You know, that's true. There's a lot of good things about buprenorphine and methadone. Suboxone, buprenorphine, same thing, just different. It's the brand name. But yeah, no, that was a really good way to put it. Who said that? Liberty Prime is a sage. Okay, Liberty Prime is a sage. That was a very well written response about withdrawal. Started watching the YouTube channel Soft White Underbelly. This made me understand that addicts, even if they detox, they often wake up to a ruined life with no connections to anyone. They end up relapsing to at least not feel like to at least not feel shit. Excuse me. Society is broken, and the shame associated with drugs is in part responsible for our problem. Yeah. Alright, next. Ketamine. Spent an hour spilling my heart out to a woman I barely knew, and it was her place, so she couldn't just leave. Sorry, Carly. Hope you're doing good. That's embarrassing. That's really embarrassing. I shattered my shoulder in a mountain biking accident 9 years ago. They gave me ketamine to sedate me while they tried, unsuccessfully, to set my shoulder. My nephew was in the room at the time, and he said I was just looking at the hospital staff and didn't have any real reaction to what they were doing. Meanwhile, I'm experiencing my own personal hell because I thought I had died and was trapped in a solid white featureless room that I was going to spend all of eternity in, and it was terrifying. Yeah, I would not give ketamine as a sedative. Like, it really, like, I don't know what kind of dose that would be, but when I did ketamine, the last thing I wanted to do was have surgery or getting my shoulder put back into place or something. That's just terrifying. That really is terrifying. Honestly, just give opioids, please. Just give him fentanyl and or something. I don't know. Oxycodone, whatever. Just make sure it's going through a drip, you know. But I don't know if ketamine is really the best thing to use for for that. It really doesn't. That would be terrifying for me because I personally had a terrifying experience on it. So yeah. Let's see what this comment says underneath. They gave me ketamine in the ER because I wouldn't let them put the IV in so they could get me into surgery to remove my appendix, and it was great. I went from straight up panic attack to go ahead and remove all the organs I don't want. I don't think I need these. And then I listed off the organs I'd be okay with him removing. Which ones were you all right with not having anymore? I know I told him he could take the uterus, ovaries, and fallopian tubes along with the appendix, but I'm pretty sure I told him there was another one I didn't want, and I can't remember it for the life of me now. If you can't remember it, you definitely don't need it. Exactly, it's clearly not that important. That's funny. That's funny. Yeah, no, ketamine for, mental disorders like depression, anxiety, and stuff like that. That can be okay in like a set room, a set hospital, set doctor's office, set treatment center. But I don't know. It just sounds terrifying to me to be sedated on it. I mean, I'd have to be really sedated because when, I don't know how much, like I said, I don't know how much milligrams that would be, how much you'd have to do for that to happen. Okay, let's see here. Someone said, any, at this point, over 2 years completely clean. However, I've done basically everything except shoot heroin and did a nasal drip of liquid fentanyl once because it was medically dosed. And I could say with confidence that even disregarding my cleanness now, there's 2 drugs I'd never do again. Number 1, crack. Absolutely terrible and stupid drug. I don't know why anyone would want to do that to themselves. It is overbearing and unpleasant. It makes you super irrational and stupid. 2, PCP. I actually did this in small doses a few times and enjoyed it, but after too much to drink one night, I was really craving some ketamine and thought, oh well, they're supposed to be similar, and did a whole line, had crystalline PCP. Well, in tiny doses it's similar, in large doses it's not. Total break from reality and blacked out for multiple hours. When I came to again, I was more depressed than I'd ever been in my life. Yeah, PCP is terrifying. Xanax. I feel totally out of control of my mind and body and don't remember anything. Kind of a terrifying drug. When I had a real problem with Xanax, I was getting like 40 to 100 bars at once and just started munching them until they were gone. I'd be out of my mind for a week or so and then wake up. I probably almost died a lot. One night I got some coke and right before I went to sleep for the night, I snorted about a 0.3 to 0.5 of a G and passed out. The feeling of just running my body under a cold blanket was one of the best parts. I'd make my bed so nice just to be gone for days. Snacks and TV set up. It was a true Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde deal. People would inform me I was total gremlin or slept for 2 days at their house without moving. I'm glad you have positive memories of that because that just sounds really like a terrible thing to happen, Alcohol, 2 years and counting, and life's much better. I'm with you, nearly 8 months. Hell yeah, hell yeah. Just hit 6 months. All right. Nutmeg. Someone has nutmeg on here. Like, I don't know how you can, okay, so it doesn't have to be an addiction, but, it's wild that people even try nutmeg. I tried it when I was a kid, like just the powdered version of it, not the actual nutmeg, but like the actual spice you could buy at the store. And yeah, I didn't really have that much of an experience with it. I think you have to do the actual nutmeg, like the actual fucking thing, not the powder. So they said nutmeg. Ordinary spice aisle nutmeg very much gets you high if you take like 3 tablespoons. The high is similar to weed, but not quite as psychedelic or euphoric. The main reason I would never do it again is it lasts like 30 hours and makes you tired as hell. I took it on a Friday when I was a teen and basically spent most of the weekend sleeping, waking up every few hours for like an hour of groggy activity. I did nutmeg one time and it was like I was looking through a kaleidoscope for a whole day. I know that nutmeg is legitimately psychoactive, but something about the phrase, I did nutmeg, is really funny to me. Yeah. Right? Except I didn't know nutmeg could produce any kind of psychoactive side effects, and now I'm going to be doing some research because this is just nuts to me. Yeah, no. Yeah, I guess if you do enough of the powder, you can, but I didn't do that much. I forgot. I think we might have put him in capsules. Nutmeg stays in your system a long time. Can't overdose on it too. Be careful. That's what someone said. This explains my eggnog benders. Yeah, no, I would never put in an eggnog. I don't like the, after taking it, I don't like the smell of it. I don't like anything about it. Like, it just doesn't, I don't know. It just doesn't sound fun to me. Crossfaded on eggnog and nutmeg. Yeah. I remember two things. Waking up and it seemed like I had a fight the night before. Eyes swollen, hungover as fuck, and just dead to the world. Second was I would have these vivid daydreams, nor hallucinations. Not hallucinations, but my mind would wander. I was driving to a place I hadn't been to in a long time. I suddenly went into this daydream/memory and woke up driving on the other side of the road. Never again. That's outrageous and terrifying. Damn. That's scary. They could have easily died. Tobacco, parentheses, nicotine. I don't know. That's just funny to put that there. In any form whatsoever, just isn't worth it. I gave up tobacco after almost 30 years of use. The withdrawal was terrible and lasted about 6 weeks. I have said that I could never let myself relapse because if I did, I would not be willing to go through withdrawal again. Fuck tobacco. Someone said, magic mushrooms. The last time was so perfect, I don't want to ruin the memories. The last time I took shrooms was in the middle of the woods at midnight, and I looked up to see the stars forming the Fibonacci spiral. Super cool experience. Then I went to go to bed, and I couldn't sleep because every time I closed my eyes, I saw the missing link from Monsters vs. Aliens. What's the... is it Fibonacci or Fibonacci? Spiral. Is this like fractals? Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's crazy. I think that's what it is. Fibonacci... okay, so... are Fibonacci spirals fractals? They can thus be considered them. Okay. Oh, I see what it is now. Okay, yeah. No, I'm not going to show it, but yeah, just look it up. It's Fibonacci, and then spirals. You'll see what it is. E cut with meth. Meth is nasty and gross, and after the E ended, the meth hung out for hours and hours. Hopefully you got some sleep. Crack cocaine. It's the devil in substance form. 6 years clean and never looking back. Hell yeah. We love to hear success stories, dude. I'm surprised heroin is so far down, but at the same time I'm not. You can't respond to a threat when you're dead or incarcerated. A dozen overdoses, jail, and a few hospital visits is enough for me. A dozen overdoses. Yeah, wow. Salvia, if you know, you know. I do know. World's strongest entheogenic hallucinogen. Only lasts a few minutes, but wraps your perception in ineffable ways. I think the most terrifying thing about it is how practical demonstration that your entire perception of reality is the result of your brain. Honestly, that was the most important lesson that I took from it. I took it a few times. It's so scary how your brain just goes off and does its own thing. Losing control of your thoughts is extremely scary, no matter what you see. In such a short amount of time, I was convinced I was a skyscraper that was being demolished, and my life as a tall building was about to end forever. When I came crumbling down, it didn't end. I was then scattered rubble while construction workers stepped all over me. That's terrifying. Jesus Christ. Even after it ends, it still takes a second to come back to reality. Like, okay, wait, I remember this. I'm actually human and not a building. I should be able to get up, walk, and that's something that people do. I witnessed one of my friends absolutely freak the fuck out, just screaming and saying nonsense. After like 5 minutes, it looked like he was coming back to reality, so we're like, you good, dude? What happened? What did you see? And he just stayed silent for a bit, then went to the bathroom to cry for a couple minutes, and came out and was like, alright guys, I'm going home, and never talked about it again. That's crazy, dude. That's why I never want to do Salvia, because Salvia, that, like, just hearing these kind of stories happen on it, like just becoming a skyscraper for that long, like, that's terrifying to me. That is really terrifying to me. I met the devil on a massive hit of Salvia concentrate. He was made of Legos and sounded like dirt bikes. My meeting him happened while I was trapped in a two-dimensional world where the only way I could move was by spinning around like a top to roll between the second dimension. I was not okay with that experience. 100%, the instantaneous rebirth of your mind, for lack of a better phrase, is world-shattering and terrifying. One of my last experiences, I was a piece of plastic flying through a series of shifting colorful planes for thousands of years. Now, when these people say they were, for thousands of years, hundreds of years, 30 years, whatever it may be, does it really actually feel like that? Does it really because if that's the case, can we use salvia for immortality? Your body, yes, will still die, but your mind, your consciousness, what if you decide to smoke salvia? What if it becomes a thing where you smoke salvia and you do enough to the point where you live a different life, as a human, so you have to be in a controlled environment, live as a human, but you live a different life, but you're living in that life for another extra 30 years. Then you come back, and then you're like, damn, that was only fucking 5 minutes. So you just keep on doing it. And, it's that, I don't know. I think that might be a thing to combat immortality. That's crazy that it feels that long, but it only is a couple minutes for real in real life. That's why it's just so scary to me. I don't want to experience that, because even if it's a good experience, I'm still going to be freaked out that I even experienced that in the first place. So that's just wild. The only benefit I got from salvia was that the experience was so mind-boggling, overwhelming, that it felt like a system reboot when I came to. It made me question everything I took for granted about existence. Still wouldn't recommend. Here's the trip report if anyone is interested, because it's still one of my favorite experiences ever. So you got a full-on trip report in this. I smoked the salvia via gravity bong. I was instantly transported to another dimension. I'm on a sort of Super Mario-esque world, but kind of like Dragon Ball Z's King Kai's planet. Like it was a really small sphere and we were standing on it. I was greeted by thousands of smaller beings singing in chorus. Welcome, we're so glad you're here. I'm not sure what they looked like, but they were tiny and indescript. There was a being disguised as a squirrel, and then a greater shadow silhouette in the background just watching. There was also a great watcher being in the sky that looked like the Super Smash Bros. Glove boss. I'm there for moments until the little beings turn on me, and their joyous song becomes one of annoyance, and they exclaimed, "You aren't supposed to be here." The Glove Guardian then forces me out of the realm very quickly. The entire trip switches scenes, and I'm now flowing in this cosmic green life force energy. It was flowing and moving, so maybe that was a transport channel of sorts. It looked just like the green materia energy force in FF7. The entire trip switches scenes again, and I'm in this kaleidoscope-esque room. I couldn't discern much detail, but it was like separated into 3 tiers, equally spaced apart, respectively being colored red, green, and blue. RGB, baby. That's like the colors. That's the colors, dude. I can only describe this as like a massive clock mechanism shifting, but the kaleidoscope shifted from one tier into the next. As a super gear transposed from one tier to the next, there came a huge resounding as if the gears had incredible weight. And then I was back in my room with my friends. For a few moments I had no recollection of who I was or my name or my past or whatever, just an empty vessel. Then my life and mind came back roaring into my body, and I was once again filled with personality. The first thought I had was, aren't I supposed to be great? That question posed within myself altered the course of my life so much I can't even describe. If I could ask the question, I could only dream about the answer then. I could only far away dream that yes, I could be great, whatever that meant. It was mind-boggling, reality-shattering. That's terrifying. It's honestly terrifying for me to hear that happen. Like, just having that. It's not, the experiences aren't terrifying for me. Like, it's just like, even with Datura, the experiences don't sound like seeing blood come from the ground and seeing spiders and shit everywhere. Like, that is not as scary as just thinking about how the drug alters your mind. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, just the fact that it alters your mind in that way, to actually see that shit, that's more terrifying than the actual hallucinations. Like, that's why salvia is just, that just sounds so terrifying to do, because, well, first off, you wouldn't even know what's gonna happen. So like, you don't even know. But it's very scary. It's very scary. Let's see here. What's especially unsettling is that many people who've tripped on Salvia and or DMT have independently described this trip. Small beings who welcome someone into their plane of existence before turning sour and saying, "You aren't supposed to be here." In some versions, they add that you can come back after you die. Yeah, we like to find some of those. Let's see what this one says. Okay, we can read this one. Salvia trip reports are pretty fun to fucking read. Obviously, it varies from person to person. I've done it 4 times, I think, and none of them were bad experiences, but were definitely interesting. The worst part is coming to after the high super sweaty. Sometimes I'm in the same location for the high that my physical body is in, sometimes not. One time I was in a giant book in space, and each page was a different planet or universe, and all the ambassadors for the different worlds were sticking out like bookmarks and talking to each other. As the pages flipped, I got to see a bunch of wild shit. Another time, I was in my bedroom and the wall would fall down and push me through the floor, continuing to revolve until I was back in its original position, except now I was in a new room. I would check out to the room, chat with whoever was there, and then the wall would start falling again and I'd come up in a new room. Happened probably 3 to 4 times. The last room I was in was back in my bedroom. The wall went to squish me through the floor again, but it just bounced off me and went back because the high was wearing off. Personally, I found Salvia to be a cool experience, and I found it very interesting the ways that your brain will kind of ease you back into reality so it all makes sense. I would gradually end up back in my surroundings as the high wore off, as opposed to just waking up abruptly. See, that's terrifying to me. He had a great experience, like he's saying it was a good one, but for me, that would just be terrifying. Like, what do you guys think? That just doesn't sound fun to me. I turned into a cheeseburger on an assembly line, and very large women started stuffing me with tomatoes and shit, and then I plopped into a McDonald's tray at the factory and someone ate me. Overall, it was hilarious, but very scary right after. It lasted maybe a minute or 2. I would never do it again. Wow. Becoming a cheeseburger? That's the first time I ever heard that. Like, you hear becoming doorknobs, fucking walls, fucking the skyscrapers and shit, but I never heard of a cheeseburger. Becoming a cheeseburger, that's crazy. Alright, we did enough Salvia ones. Okay, well, there's another one that's not part of that, but Salvia, shit's terrifying. I literally thought I was a couch. It felt like my body itself was part of the stitching of the cushions or some shit. I don't know how to describe it. This was after I felt like I got sucked into the game of Skate 3 I was playing on Xbox, and I felt all pixelated and remember scenes like pages of a book, flipping and literally looking like book pages. I don't know, shit was fucking wild. Yeah, shit was fucking wild. Heroin, mostly because I've tried to dabble or just do a little bit, but it just never seems to actually work out that way for me or even feel remotely possible for me. Good job, women, house, dogs, all that comes with being straight, and if I do just one tiny little bump, like so small, I'm bitching that I won't feel it as I lean in to snort it. Cut to me being a broke bum scheming my next fix, penniless, single, no dogs, and I'm fucked yet again for a chemical rush. Oh yeah, and every single one of those couple dozen times I've relapsed just to get strung out again for 6 months just to kick it again, probably at least 30 times. From the second I relapsed to the moment I smashed back down to my bed, down there at rock bottom, every single time that fall happened inside of a month. No matter what I try, that chemical just crumples me. It really does. So I've got 11 years now with that on don't fucking do it bro list where I'm confident it'll remain. And the whole thing of there's no real dope out there anymore anyways, Fetty was just fading into dope while I was on my way out of my last go round. Not that I trusted my dope boys past the packs I'd get from them, but now you have no clue, nor does he or the guy before him, and so on, back to the cartel, because they are indeed the ones making all the batches hot, and that's facts. So yeah, heroin. Well, he got lucky a little bit there, because if he got addicted to fentanyl, then that would be even harder to quit, you know. Alcohol. It is liquid pleasure for me and has already cost me so many friendships as I don't stop until I'm in a complete blackout. I can't just drink one. Sober now, different life, and grateful I got another chance. Hey, shout out that. Adderall. Holy fuck. So at a low dosage you get very productive and motivated, but at a higher dosage, the side effects kick your ass. You don't eat, you don't sleep, you become very irritable, and it really fucks with your emotions. The withdrawal lasted about 6 months and fucking sucked. The only way I do it again is if I entered a multi-day race. Weed. Okay, someone said weed. Weed, never again, ever. I smoked all through college without issue. I stopped in 01 just because it stopped interesting me. 2003, I tried again and got smacked with massive paranoia. Fast forward to 2011, I tried again. The paranoia was so severe I had to be comforted and consoled by what amounted to a complete stranger for 2 hours. I woke up the next day and still felt slightly paranoid. I'll never smoke again. I'm not averse to others using it. I'm hardcore for legalization. To each their own. It's just not for me. Yeah, turns out it's not for me either. Penicillin. Turns out I'm allergic. Wow. All of them. 6 months sober, never looking back. Hopefully. Weed. It just doesn't work for me. Yeah, no, it's not for everybody, someone said. It's literally true. Like, there's people who smoke weed who like it every day. That's fine. You know, you guys can enjoy it. But people like me, people like these people on here that are commenting this shit, it's just not, it just doesn't mix with our brains very well. I hate it. I really do. I will never understand how some people can smoke blunt upon blunt and just be alright. I've gotten high from just being in the same room as someone smoking weed, and that was already enough for me. Yeah, me too. Me too. I get high just from the smell of it, like smelling it. Like, it doesn't have to be, I don't have to be in the same room. I could just smell it and I start panicking because I just think about how I have terrible experiences with it. Just the first hour, it depends if it's an edible or smoking. Because if you're smoking, it's an hour, but an edible, it's a lot longer of that period of time where it's just panic and paranoia and anxiety. Like, I just hate that so much. 5-MeO DMT. It felt like a death void. Nothing like the real DMT. Yeah. OMG, bro. No one else seems to have done that drug. I hallucinate that I was a terrified acorn inside some cavity in a tree. I was too scared to come out of the tree because I wasn't ready to become a tree myself. LOL. Shit was wonky. What exactly is the difference? Let's see here. One is very visual oriented and the other is internally/emotionally oriented. Which is which? LMAO, that is not true at all. That is your very limited experience. And then DMT, aka DMT, leads to clusters of coherence, or in other words, lots of different competing frameworks, which leads to very high information effects like crazy shapes, whereas 5-MeO DMT leads to global coherence, which leads to low information states, such as the feeling of your world collapsing into a single point. And they said, you're just saying words, but I don't think they make such sense. What is a cluster of coherence versus a global coherence? What did someone say after that? A cluster of coherence would be like one part of your experience is coherent and all on the same page, whereas global coherence is when your whole experience is all on the same page. First time I heard that term. I never heard of that term before. Zoloft. You think an anxiety depression medication wouldn't have side effects of anxiety and depression. That's true. Zoloft is actually the worst. I don't know how it works for anyone, but it's always the first thing they try to prescribe you because it's the oldest and most researched. Not true, actually, because we did a poll, or we did a quiz the other day on my community post. Prozac is actually the oldest one that was on the market. Now, there's another SSRI that they made, but it's not around anymore, so it doesn't count. But like current SSRIs, Prozac is the oldest one. Any of them. Addiction runs in my family. Never ever trying any of that shit. It's just not worth it. Yeah, no, addiction does run in the family. Honestly, anything powdered or street. Fuck fentanyl. GHB. Too easy to do much. Proper frigged me up. That guy was definitely British. G-holes are nasty, but passing after 1 hour of sleep. Ecstasy. I went through an experimental phase and did this once a month 1 year until a new friend wanted to try it with us for the first time. She had a catastrophic reaction with the vessel bursting in her brain, filling the right hemisphere with blood. Oh my God. She was in a rehab for 6 months and is permanently paralyzed from head to toe on her left side. It was pretty traumatic witnessing the transformation happening in front of me. That was the last time I did that drug. It's too bad. I really, really enjoyed experimenting with it up to that point. Was this stuff tested beforehand? Oh my God, that's terrible. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. LOL, I was reading. I'm like, is this really MDMA? This was 20 years ago, so I don't think testing was as widely available like it is now. From all the doctor's visits I was privy to, the doctors said they would never know the cause, but he believed that it was a pre-existing condition in her brain that ruptured due to the insane high blood pressure. We had the same drug as her, and even though it was one of the worst experiences of my life, I was chemically forced to feel really good. That's crazy. That is crazy. So, they felt good. So I'm assuming, I'm sure the doctor was right on that one. You got to listen to doctors most of the time, right? I mean, they go to school for years just to do what they got to do. Poppers. It's just a stupid inhalant like all the others. Didn't get me horny. Didn't enhance orgasm. All I got was my heart started to skip beats, sometimes 2 to 3 in a row. Scary as hell, do not recommend. Me and 2 friends did poppers all evening while playing Mario Party on the Wii. Horrendous experience looking back on it. One of my friend's ears turned purple. I thought the primary use for poppers was sex. Got poppers and weird sex. Years ago, took a 100 milligram THC capsule after putting the kids to bed. That is an insane amount. I can barely do 5 milligrams. I can barely do fucking 5, but my tolerance is very, 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 very low compared to other people, so... started out pleasant, but I kept sinking deeper every 3 minutes and ended up in a really dark place of intrusive thoughts. Notably, Chris Benoit, the wrestler who exed his family and then himself, had to leave the house to be safe and lock myself in the car. Worried I might have mistakenly taken something else, I was on the verge of a psychotic break. Tried to sleep it off, but I was still getting pretty high for 2 to 3 hours before any let up. The afterglow, if you can call it that, stuck around for 2 days. Worst paranoia attack I've ever experienced, never again. Yeah, these are kind of like, it's not that extreme, but I get extreme thoughts like that when I get high, and that's why I don't like to smoke. So people ask me why I don't do it, it's because of shit like this. But I'm not against weed at all. I am pro legalization. I'm pro using it for problems and injuries and stuff like that. Cancer, glaucoma. Do people use weed for glaucoma? That was in a WKUK sketch. But yeah, I don't know how true that is, because it's just a song and it's just a joke. But yeah. Cocaine. I'm too old and it could possibly be cut with fentanyl. Any white powder these days are really scary. Unless you test, you might wake up dead. Yeah, that's really terrifying to think about. Everyone needs to get a tester for sure. That one is not that interesting. Someone said lisinopril, lisinopril, I don't know. Lisinopril. Yeah. What it was supposed to do was lower my blood pressure. What it actually did was cause my windpipe to start closing up. Anyway, we went with a different blood pressure medication, and now whenever I go to the hospital, I get a fetching red band. I found out I'm allergic to it too, but not that bad. My face and lips swelled up. That's scary you had such a reaction to it. Yeah, let's look it up. Dude, just imagine taking a drug that you're allergic to. Like, that's terrifying. Well, let me just look up the pronunciation. I don't want to keep pronouncing it wrong. Lisinopril. Okay, so I didn't get any of them right. Lisinopril. Why is lisinopril one of the worst blood pressure meds? Too much lisinopril can damage the kidneys. All right. Swelling in sensitive areas like the throat, it can be dangerous. Yeah, that can make you choke, I wonder if there's any Arrowhead reports. Cocaine and lisinopril. There is one. Let's see, is this... Oh, it's a health problem. Let's see here. There's nothing... No, there's nothing on it. Not really that interesting. Okay. All right, let's go back to this. Someone just said Ambien, period. They didn't say period, but the period after Ambien. I learned real quick to wait until I was in bed until I took Ambien. I found I had about a 5-minute window between taking it and having no memory whatsoever of what came after. My wife would have to tell me about what I was doing after that point. I think I took it 2 to 3 times before giving up on it, and honestly what I really needed was a CPAP since I have obstructive sleep apnea. Ambien is the shit. Holy hell, nothing else screws your head as good. LSD, had a bad trip, and yeah, not fun. I've had bad trips, but they still help me learn about myself. I love acid, though. Look, I know you're having a really hard time right now, but look at the bright side. It only lasts 10 more hours. Yay. All right, we just read an acid one. We did an MDMA one before. Sugar, I promise liver attacks hurt a lot. That sounds scary. A liver attack? Oh, God. Oh, someone has a Kratom one. We got to read that one. Kratom. It was amazing when I first started using it. I used Kratom extracts and took higher doses, so it felt very similar to taking OxyContin. Absolutely loved it. Fast forward to 6 months later, and I was completely hooked on it. I'd wake up going through withdrawals. Felt like I was going through opioid withdrawals every single morning. I tried to quit cold turkey because I couldn't afford to buy the amount of Kratom extracts I needed to keep a buzz going anymore. When my last Kratom dose wore off, oh my lord, I went through withdrawals that had me bedridden, pouring sweat, freezing cold, couldn't eat, constantly nauseous. I had been an alcoholic for 7 years and quit cold turkey, and Kratom withdrawals were worse than the alcohol withdrawals. I ended up going to the hospital because I wasn't sure if I needed to go into detox or not. They put me on Suboxone, immediately relieved of all my withdrawals. My second answer to this question is Suboxone because it is also nearly impossible to get off of. My third answer would probably be Salvia or Methadone. I just did a video on Methadone, by the way, for MMC. Go watch that. Has going to the hospital and being put on Suboxone caused you to be labeled as a drug seeker in the medical community? I'm taking quite a bit of Kratom a day, and I don't know if I have the self-control for a slow taper, but I'm also really worried I'd be labeled as an addict for the rest of my life, therefore being denied meds that I might genuinely need someday. I've already been through opiate addiction / some other farms and truly have no desire to do any of that shit recreationally, but realize I might need them at some point for legit medical reasons. So before I started abusing Kratom, I had been to the hospital 6 separate occasions to be placed in a medical detox for alcohol abuse and cocaine use. I wasn't labeled as a drug seeker, but they most definitely used my previous alcohol and drug use when taking into consideration which drugs they are going to prescribe me. I wasn't allowed by a doctor to prescribe gabapentin because of my history. As far as I'm concerned, if you have surgery or chronic pain, maybe, the only option is painkillers as far as pain treatment. I was pretty clear with the doctors while I was in detox that I began using Kratom because I no longer wanted to use farms. Before I tried quitting cold turkey, I was using Kratom powder extract as well as a liquid extract shots, and I was using all day. In my opinion, it would have been impossible to taper myself. I'm still thankful in a way that I was put on Suboxone because it has kept me from having any desire to go back to opiates or Kratom. So you get off one, go on to another. But yeah, no, Suboxone can be used very well. I actually know a guy. We were talking about Kratom withdrawals together. He actually got on buprenorphine. So yeah, they gave him that at an addiction center to get off of Kratom. So he said it's working really, really well. But he said it's been really hard for him to quit Kratom. For me, it was really hard. I mean, it wasn't hard the first 2 days. I think that's what helped me get over it a little bit. It helped me stop the cravings because the first 2 days I was just completely fine. I was just like, what the fuck? I don't even feel like I'm going through anything. But then after that, that's when the back pain started coming on, and then the restlessness started and everything else, all that shit. So I suffered through it, but I got through it. But clearly not as strong as what this guy went through. I didn't have anything like close to that, so he must have been doing a lot, or his body just reacted a little bit worse than, not a lot worse than I did. I take Kratom about once a week for sleep and pain. I've never had the slightest inclination to take it recreationally. Good, don't ever abuse it. I have a pretty bad substance abuse history. Yeah, no, that's exactly what I'm saying. Don't ever abuse it. Using Kratom was the first time I ever projectile vomited like The Exorcist. Yeah, people get really sick on it. Luckily, that never happened to me. I vomited once on it because I played basketball in like really hot heat, and then I vomited when I came back to my house, or when I lived with my mom back when I was a teenager, or maybe I was a little bit older than teenager. I was probably 18, maybe. I forgot when I started taking Kratom, but. Actually, the first time I started taking Kratom, I was doing it like not often at all. Like it wasn't once a day. It was like maybe once a week or a couple times a week maybe. But then it became a full-fledged addiction where I was doing 3 doses a day. So yeah, and then the 7-hydroxymetragine, it really got me. Let's see here. Meth, lost 2 houses, all my teeth, and a great job. Thankfully, wife and family stuck by me, and I've been clean for 18 plus years now. That's good. Tequila, alcohol poisoning. I'm not going to read that one because that has that. Okay, so someone has Jimson weed seeds. This is a long one, guys. This is a longest comment on here. Jimson weed seeds. The high was pretty bad, but it was the 3 days after that were worse. See, this is why I'll never run out of trip reports, because you go on Reddit threads like this, and there'll be trip reports like this on there that you can read. Like, there's never, like, people, I've gotten a lot of questions about people asking me if I'll ever run out of trip reports, and I'll be like, no, dude, there's always going to be more. As long as people are alive and they're doing drugs, like, there'll always be more trip reports. The high was marked by severe confusion and hallucinations. For example, we were in my car, but my friend was driving because I was high. As I was sitting in the passenger seat, I started searching for the brake pedal and couldn't find it. I started panicking to the point of yelling and being scared, but almost immediately I noticed my friends did not seem alarmed. I couldn't figure out what was wrong, but I knew it had to be me. Another example, I remember asking my friend if he wanted to try on some cross trainers while we were at his grandma's house. Now, I was working at a Lady Foot Locker during that time period, so I said things like that a lot. But I wasn't at work, so I would say weird things and almost immediately realize it was not right, but I couldn't figure out why. The worst part was the 3 days after I ate the seeds. The very next day I woke up and felt normal, but when I picked up a newspaper, I realized my vision was severely impaired. I couldn't read anything, no matter how far or close I moved the newspaper. I couldn't make out a word. I went from 20/20 vision to who knows. I was a little concerned, but I figured it would go away after a day. Woke up the next day and vision was still impaired. Panic slowly starts to creep in. Could this be permanent? No way. Maybe it takes 2 days to clear the system. No need to work myself up. I'll ditch school and sleep to help my eyes recover. I'll definitely be fine by tomorrow. Wake up the third day after, and vision is still severely impaired. At this point, I'm severely depressed and pissed at myself. I can't believe I did this to myself. Worst part was thinking how I would explain this to my mom. I had to tell her because I needed glasses. I couldn't read any text anywhere. I was fucked. I'm pretty sure I cried. I remembered I turned my phone off and just sat in my room thinking about how I would approach my mom. I remember deciding I'd wait till the weekend. Went to bed early. Woke up the next day and miraculously, vision was completely back to normal. No ill effects at all. I can't express the feeling of relief I felt. May have brought a tear of happiness. Man, I promised myself that I would never do drugs again, except weed, of course. I was in high school, so that may have lasted a few months, but I've never done Jimson weed again and never will. Luckily, a few years later, I had a friend who wanted to try them. He asked me to do them with him, and I said, hell no. But I promised him I'd look after him. I got to see firsthand how weird it makes people. He said weird things, and I could see the confused look in his face when he knew what he was saying was wrong, but not really knowing why. When he woke up the next day, he asked me if I had a girl come over last night. I said no. He told me he remembered seeing me having sex with 2 girls last night. He asked again whether that happened. I told him I could say with 100% confidence that there wasn't even one, let alone 2 girls in my bed last night. I wish that happened, but sadly it did not. He was like, that shit is crazy. Yeah, that shit is crazy. 99.997% pure cocaine, impossible to find. That's a good one. Whippets, got light sensitivity 2 years ago, doing them and never looked back. Oh, so that's still staying in place. Mushrooms, because the fan base sucks the fun out of it, makes every mushroom-related topic about growth or spirituality. We know it makes you think about life, breaks emotional walls, and makes you vulnerable. Tell me about the weird pictures you drew or the 3 pounds of grapes you ate tripping. Yeah, true. True. Air duster, dumbest thing I've done. I'm definitely less intelligent than I was before that can. Was better than ending myself, but still wish I'd never done it. Yeah. Fucking hell. I don't know how people start doing inhalants, but man, it's just like, it's crazy to me. My lawyer advised me not to answer this question. Any research chemical. I took what I was told was 25I once in college when I was not able to find LSD. Apparently they were meant to be very similar, but I guess maybe the dosages were very different. I took 2 drops and immediately knew I fucked up. Oh boy. About 30 minutes later, I was puking my brains out in the shared dorm bathroom. Next thing I know, I phased through the wall I was leaning on, and I didn't come back to reality for the next 8 hours. Absolutely terrifying trip. Anyone who's been locked in their own mind for an extended period of time knows those 8 hours lasted a lifetime. That was many years ago, and now all I do is smoke weed. Fully scared me straight from any hallucinogens again. Scary shit. That's how I felt on the DXM when I was trapped in my own mind. It was very terrifying. Well, just speaking of DXM, when I was younger, triple C's were pretty popular. It's cold medicine for people with high blood pressure. You'd have to took a lot to feel anything, and the whole world felt like a strobe light was going on and off. Thinking back how he did that make my stomach hurt because we were just babies and literally could have died. Do not recommend. Xanax, especially the delayed version of it. I got it prescribed from my doc since I was struggling with insomnia, and regular sleeping pills make me hallucinate like crazy. Realized soon enough I could completely dissociate with it, and that's how it all started. Since I took the delayed release type, I don't know what to call it in English, extended release, I'd be like that for 24 to 48 hours. Then I started taking them before I went to bed. If I felt like ass, if something bad happened, so I wouldn't be confronted with it. Eventually built up a tolerance so I'd take double the recommended dose. Slept for 48 hours, anxiety, heart problems, worst depression of my life, not in control of my body at all. Never fucking touching that stuff again. Let's see here. I don't feel like reading that one. I'm not gonna read any more long ones because I only have so much energy to do this. Oh, but we're past an hour, so we're probably gonna end this pretty soon. Alcohol. I'm an alcoholic, and I should have been dead, in prison or in a long-term psych ward more times than I can count. The social acceptance / encouragement of unsafe drinking can really bother me sometimes. I blended in just fine with normal drinkers, and it took 20 years for anyone to really take notice. I'll drink to that one, buddy. I'm not really feeling anything. I mean, I'm feeling a little bit, like I'm not tipsy even, you know, so I don't know what's going on. I have another one, but I was saving it for tomorrow. But maybe I have to drink it tonight. I don't know. I don't know if it's safe to do that, though. But yeah, I wanted to try this because someone mentioned doing this. I forgot what the brand was called, but it had like the same amount of percentage in it. But I saw it in there, but they had a pack of it, and I didn't feel like buying a pack of it. I just wanted to like buy separate ones. That's why I got these separate ones. I got a fruit punch one, and then I got a mango one in there. The fruit punch one, did not really like it at first, but now it's kind of good. I guess I could be getting more drunk because of just not having to taste it as bad. I notice when I get drunk, I'm sure this happens to everybody, you start to not really taste what you're drinking. The casino would do that to me. They would literally give me a double Don Julio Silver with Sprite. And they'd give me a double, all right, and then they'd like put just like a little bit of Sprite in there, and they would get me like that, and that would make me want to take more money out for the slot machines, and so they do that on purpose, and they still charge you like $14 for it. They probably raised the price now. That was like not even a year ago though, so but you know, with inflation and shit going on, I mean anything can go up. But I do like this one. It's called Vibe by Vendage. Vendage has the box wines. I remember them. I was talking about at the beginning. Opium. Old school opium. It's not a party drug. The smoke smelled like rose art crayons. We all sat around and smoked it. Then we all got tired and just took a nap. Opium just makes people sleepy. It's kind of pointless because I could just take a nap on my own or go to bed. Everyone taking a nap at the beginning of a party felt silly. Datura. I blacked out for 8 hours or so and came to talking to people and things that weren't there, but with no idea that I wasn't sober. It was like a terrible dream, and I couldn't focus my vision for days afterward. Also, apparently it's pretty dose sensitive, and the flowers I had weren't more potent. Yeah, so a lot of vision problems with this shit. I've also read that before in trip reports where they've had vision problems. See if there's a new one. Norco. I took after dental surgery and it sucked. Like dropped me so hard I peed the bed twice while sleeping bad. I was in a haze for 2 days until in a moment of lucidity, Mom told me it had been 2 days and I could likely switch to ibuprofen. I took some and went back to bed. I woke up that afternoon thankfully fully alert and functioning. Never again. Alright. Okay, we gotta read this one. Fentanyl. Got sold a few fake Roxys, which ended up being laced, and went straight to my bathroom to snort one. It was probably the size of half a raisin, but that was all it took. I'd been an opioid addict for a quarter of my life at that point. Snorting was my go-to method, so I was pretty well experienced in pills and knew the effects of most kinds. About 2 seconds after sniffing this little thing, I stood up. My eyes rolled back into my head as I stumbled 2 steps trying to grab onto the wall. I grabbed onto the shower curtain instead and fell face first into the bathtub while dragging the curtain and rod down with me. I passed out for just a few minutes, I think, wrapped in the shower curtain, contorted in the tub. It took me what felt like forever to get myself out of the bathtub. My whole body just went limp, each body part feeling like it was asleep, including my face. I finally made it to my bed feeling like a straight-up zombie, probably looking like one too, slumped, eyes rolling back, mouth unable to stay closed, and drooling on myself. I fell into bed, just overcome with exhaustion. Once I laid down on my stomach, I was able to relax a bit, nodding out, feeling tingly and numb. Not an ache, not a pain, not a feeling, and not a single thought in my head. Eventually, after nodding in and out for a while, I passed out. I was genuinely so scared that I wouldn't wake up. I thought about calling for help, but I was just so sleepy. Anywho, woke up with the worst headache of my life and a busted lip from biting it while face planting the bottom of my bathroom tub. It was weird. For nearly a whole 24 hours, an active addiction. I had no desire to do any drugs. I felt like shit, but just didn't want to. I felt so slow for a day or two. Didn't feel like myself for months afterwards, though. I flushed the fakes that night, but a few weeks later, I honestly started wishing that I didn't. None of the pills were hitting anymore. I started thinking more about that feeling the fentanyl-laced pills had given me. The nothingness feeling. I could see how people get hooked so easily on fentanyl. It's a complete escape from your mind and body. I never touched fentanyl again and stuck to my regular dealers. Be safe out there, guys. Yeah, that's crazy. I don't know why this one doesn't have as many upvotes as the other ones. It only has 13. That's crazy. That is crazy. Heroin. I liked it way too much. Coke. Coming down made me so depressed. I already have bouts of depression. I don't ever want to feel like that on purpose. I don't even drink anymore, just weed. Crack. Tried it a couple times, and the first time you literally cannot get any happier. Your brain is producing as much serotonin and dopamine as it possibly can, plus preventing serotonin reuptake. It feels like you just won the Super Bowl, won the lottery, hiked to the top of Mount Everest. But it only lasts for about 10 to 15 minutes tops. Then you feel like the worst you've ever felt for about 5 to 6 hours. Even if you smoke more, it's never as close to that first time. Even after those 2 times, it was a couple years before my brain stopped craving it. An awful, stupid drug. Very scary. Very, very scary. Spent one day doing meth and legitimately thought my friends were planning on robbing me and killing me. Ran around town and saw people with guns trying to kill me. Was not a good time. Okay, let's see if there's any more here, because we're probably going to end it pretty soon. Here's one I never heard of. Methotrexate. I took it for my arthritis for a while until I got a more modern medicine. It's a cancer/abortion drug from the 50s. The side effects sucked. My balding accelerated, my fingernails got so thin that they would sometimes bend over backwards on themselves, and I had horrible crampy diarrhea every week the day after I took the pill. All for a drug that worked maybe half as well as biologic. No thank you. Yeah, no thank you. No thank you. Here's another Kratom one. I'll read all the Kratoms for sure. Kratom. I'm on day 4 of my second Kratom detox, which is my 5th opioid detox. Heroin, fentanyl, methadone, Kratom. And I hate myself for getting hooked on it again. I'm so sick and miserable right now. Never again. I also won't ever touch coke, crack, or bath salts again because they're so compulsive, cardiotoxic, and will cause you to spend every last penny you have. Salvia was a terrifying one that I enjoyed a few times as a kid, but I'm too old for that shit now. Yeah. That's how I feel about regular, like, psychedelics. Like, I just feel like I'm too old for, like, acid now. Like, being a 25-year-old, like, I don't need to take that shit anymore. Let's see if there's any more. I don't want to watch porn ever again. It lights up the same areas in your brain as a drug. Not for any religious reasons, but because how detrimental it is to mental health, where the only dopamine rush in your life comes from watching strangers on the internet have sex. That's true. That is very true. MDMA. Someone has adrenochrome on here, so they did it. The hangover/withdrawal lasts for weeks from one use. That's crazy. That's crazy. Acid. Last time I did it, I mixed it with a fake weed card and ended up having a heart attack and died. Full-blown near-death experience and everything. Four Loko, blacked out, and when I came to, my friends had all left me at the piano bar. I was dancing on stage by myself. Okay. Wait, smoking pain pills. Okay, let's see what this person says. Smoking pain pills. My dad had a heart attack and we found out it was caused by a genetic heart disease. Never touched another pill and haven't looked back. Now I've lost 2 friends to accidental ODs, and the pills I formerly used are almost always fentanyl rather than the oxys they're sold as. I think my lucky stars I found the sense to stop. Yeah, no, you definitely found the sense to stop. Or, yeah, sense to stop. A lot of weed ones on here. Weed, Molly. All right. So this will be the last one. Since it's a little bit longer, we'll read this as the last one. It's Effexor. So venlafaxine. I wanted to ensure I mention a non-street drug that most do not know how serious it is and how it ruins lives as well. Effexor is an SSRI that is well known to have the worst withdrawal symptoms of any SSRI. Well, it is an SNRI, isn't it? I fucking thought. Effexor SNRI. Yeah, it's an SNRI, so he's got it mixed up. But that's okay. We all make mistakes. Effexor is an SNRI that is well known to have the worst withdrawal symptoms of any SNRI. There have also now been reported deaths related to the withdrawals of this medication, where the American Psychiatric Association will be pushing an alert to classify its risks in the same category of alcohol and benzodiazepine withdrawal. That's the reason why I didn't want to take it, because of the withdrawal symptoms. Because I know I don't want to be on Lexapro forever. But I know if I took venlafaxine, I have to be on that shit forever. It took me over a year of withdrawals, 7 seizures, 3 inpatient hospital stays, and almost died and brought back respiratory arrest. Almost died and brought back. All from withdrawals on non-abused prescribed levels of the medication. I was not drinking or doing any street drugs during this time. The withdrawals of this drug were so serious that the taper scheduling had to be brought down to the 20th of a milligram a week for a year. That's crazy. A 20th of a milligram for a week? 20th of a milligram a week for a year. For the first 3 months in the taper, it completely changed my entire psychiatric persona to the point I was nothing like my former self or even former medicated self on Effexor. It took about 3 years total to get completely back to myself pre-medicated before on Effexor. Everything similar to being addicted and withdrawing from other horrible drugs went into this as well. Personally, I would say worse. I was non-functioning for an entire year. Shaking, sweating, anxiety, tremors, fear, altered mental state, no sleep, uncontrolled convulsions, vomiting, not being able to eat, and worse. I became bedridden, nonverbal, unable to care for myself, unable to concentrate or even focus on things for more than a few minutes. It was so severe, I had multiple fMRIs, PET, and other diagnostics as a team of doctors actually thought I had a major brain injury, tumor, or other disease directly affecting my brain structure. I was even investigated for Lewy body dementia. We all need to take a serious look at how dangerous SNRIs are and realize how powerful and horrible these medications actually are taken long term. Edit. After peer review with qualified psychiatrists, I was never ever medically qualified nor had any medical and psychiatric need to even take Effexor. It was misprescribed as most all SSRIs are. Most SNRIs. Yeah. That's crazy. As soon as I read the name, I knew I had read it somewhere before. This girl I've been talking to went through something very similar as you when getting off the godforsaken drug. I'm glad you were able to get through it and hope you are in a much better place now. Thank you for posting. It's a bit much to say that most SSRIs are misprescribed. What should doctors be prescribing instead? That's a true statement. Like, I feel fine on the Lexapro. Like, I'm definitely doing better than I would be without being on an SSRI. But yeah. But being on an SNRI, that's why I don't want to take, like, they also offered me Cymbalta or duloxetine. I said, hell no. I said, fuck that shit. But anyways, I think we got through a good amount. I think that ended on a really good one. That one should have definitely had more upvotes than 4. So unless he was late to the party, that could be the case. But yeah, so I hope you enjoyed this video, guys. We're going to end it here. It's been almost an hour and 14 minutes. That's crazy, dude. We've been out here for a while. I hope this is enough content to get you through the day, get you through the week, get you through all your struggles and shit. And just stay safe out there, guys.